Okay, I did my term paper on the article Baggage, Our Pandemic Journey in Grief by Lee Barringer. This article was an article which discussed in depth how the United States, in particular funeral directors in the United States, are dealing with how the COVID-19 pandemic has affected everyone in some way. Not only has it affected people who have lost loved ones or who have died, it has affected people who have lost jobs, have lost the ability to move to other countries, pursue master's degrees, pursue college, students who were in high school. It looked at all of that, but the main issue in this article was how grief and grieving has been affected by the COVID-19 pandemic as a whole. So mostly it goes into detail talking about how COVID-19 restrictions, so the issue with having to have a limited number of people at your funeral service, how only having 10 people or only having 3 people even can affect the grieving process, how, sometimes you have a big family and there is a large group of people that want to be able to attend that service to say your final goodbyes, but you're not able to do that because of the limited number of people that can be there, and how there are times when people need comfort from friends and those friends can't be at the funeral because it can only be immediate family. Also, how maybe your loved one wanted a big funeral, how you wanted to have this huge funeral at your church, but your church isn't available because of COVID, and the people who you grew up with and who loved you can't be there for you because of the restrictions. This can really affect the grieving process and can actually extend the time in which a person has, the grieving process on their mind. They can't have that closure of, okay, I've seen them die. I've seen them, in their casket. I've been able to grieve with the people who I care about and who they cared about as well. They don't have that. And Barringer actually said that the importance of engaging in some kind of meaningful art or ritual at the time of death is vital to the grieving process. And I really do agree with that. Being able to say goodbye and have that final moment of looking at the person who you love and who you care about before they are entombed or interred or even cremated, because that's a lot. At our funeral home, we've seen a lot of cremations happening since COVID. Makes it safer, and so maybe this person, their body isn't even on earth anymore. It's just leveled into ashes. When people don't get to grieve and say final goodbyes, it can negatively affect their psyche and the grieving process, which I've stated. Sorry, just being loud. It can really affect that, and most of the time it's not in a good way. There are a lot of people who don't need that final goodbye. There are a lot of people who maybe had that time with them before, but especially with COVID, if your loved one died of COVID, it may have been a split second kind of, they were fine 1 minute, then the next they're intubated in the hospital and you can't visit them in the hospital, so you don't get any kind of closure, which a funeral service would allow. I've only known, working in the funeral service during the pandemic, I actually started working as an apprentice in February of this year, so I've only known the restrictions and how bad it can be. And there was one time that I can very clearly recall. This young man died. It wasn't COVID, it was a car accident, and his mother came in to make arrangements. His mom and dad came in, and it was very, very obvious to me and my licensee that were sitting in on the arrangement conference that they were not okay. They were avoiding eye contact with everyone. They were avoiding eye contact with us, with each other. Anytime we would ask a question, they wouldn't answer. It would be almost like they didn't hear us. And so finally, I just kind of asked the mom if she could get us a picture of her son. I used it under the guise of we needed it for the obituary, but I figured, maybe that would help her just a little bit. So she went through her phone and she started going through memories, and that helped her, kind of open up to us a little bit. She started crying. Dad started crying, and she told us about how extroverted and excited about life, and how loving and sweet he was, and how she was very upset because her son, who lived in Colorado, wouldn't be able to make the trip because he would have to quarantine, he would have to do all kinds of stuff, and he can't do that with work. How, you know, he wasn't going to get to see his brother be buried. He wouldn't get to see his brother one last time. That really affected her. And we sat and we had a really great conversation. And by the time the family left, you know, everyone was a lot lighter and was a lot happier. I mean, as happy as you can be when your son has died. I'm not saying that that's, you know, the best thing, but she was a lot lighter when she left. And this kind of just really reminded me about how important it is to sit down the pen when you're in an arrangement conference, and to sit there and have an actual conversation with the person and get to know them and get to know how you can better help them. And this article was really eye-opening, and it was a really great article, and I enjoyed reading it because not only did it have a personal, a little bit of a personal connection with me, with, you know, this specific story, but it's helped me to become a better apprentice and a better funeral service professional.